Good morning. How's it going? Hello, Damon. Fancy meeting you here. How are you doing? Okay. What the hell am I doing? Okay. Still trying to fix the game I broke. Let's see. Alright. Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's better than bad. It's better than terrible. It's acceptable. Okay. So. List SO. Yeah. Exactly. Look at this. Look at all this niceness. Yes. Like. I've even started making SO arrays. Okay, no wait, those are lists. Never mind. Maybe I didn't. I could have sworn I made SO arrays. Maybe it was some other array. Whatever. Yeah, no, I think I'm thinking of something else. Okay. Next up, I think. So I was getting all this stuff ready to go. I think I just wanna get to the point where I can actually play the game again. Or at least play the game and then do something in it. Because I think I've at least made it so that the errors have gone away. I think. Let's see. No, I have not. Okay, great stuff. There's 2 new errors. Or maybe they're not new. I just forgot about them. Okay, so the game asset database in the game data. Null reference exception error there. And then here. Okay, I think that one is because of this one. Oh, okay, never mind. I never did the good old resource SOs. New dictionary. Well, no, do I need to do that even? I think toDictionary creates a new dictionary. I don't actually think that's the problem. Yeah, don't know. Let's try. I think there's a different problem here. Let's go check my game entry point. Okay, the asset database is there. Okay, wait a minute. Maybe this is the problem right here. I think I needed to insert it there as well. That might have been it, honestly. Yeah, that is it. I don't think this is required then. So if I try again, this should work now. And then I kind of want to make Vulkan move. I feel like that's a good place to start. Okay, yeah, so this works. Now nothing else works. Everything's completely broken. Yeah, these buttons aren't connected to anything anymore. Yes, it's Pretty sad. At least these icons are working again. Okay, now. I have 0 UI functionality. Okay, fantastic. That's exactly the type of progress I need. It's sad, actually, but anyway. Let's go. Okay, so if we think about Vulkan and the data I might require for Vulkan. Let's see. So Vulkan, okay, current resources, current region, state, positions, all these things are kind of, I mean, they're not coming from a definition of Vulkan necessarily, right? No. No, these are things that can change. But there should be something. I do have a Vulkan definition. And let's see, what's the point of this thing? Okay, it's upgrade tiers, the whole mass, fuel use. Okay, some of this stuff. Hey, cheers, Damon. Have a good nap, man. Enjoy the hell out of it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay. All this stuff. Cheers. Cheers. I don't like any of this stuff. Okay, so the Vulkan definition. Okay, yeah, we get a string. I don't like it being an I definition to start with, so get rid of that nonsense. I don't want that. Okay, but what kind of information though do we have to put in here for Vulkan to work? Okay, let me think about this. Let's open up my game data. Where the hell? Oh, show in Explorer, there we go. So my, oops, data authoring. Okay, so this is not it. Yeah, okay, so basically the kind of information I still have around here. Oh yeah, I guess I need to do the upgrade stuff. Power upgrades, yeah, these things. Yeah, okay, some of these tabs are completely useless, but anyway. So if I think about it, like in terms of the mining complex, right? It's got levels, you know, it can get upgraded. And it basically increases your extraction and that type of stuff. Now, Vulkan, I think, will also have upgrades to increase its capabilities. I'm just not sure which capabilities. So currently, the only capabilities Vulkan has that I've programmed is construction, right? So there's a bunch of construction things that Vulkan can do. Obviously, it does its anchoring stuff and whatever, but the main thing that Vulkan can do is it can move around and it can build. I've taken away the ability for Vulkan to do any mining or processing or research. It's also not a logistics hub at all. So if Vulkan had to be made, what kind of interesting things might the player do with Vulkan when they interact? So apart from things like a bunch of upgrades to to make Vulcan, better in some way, maybe a little bit faster, maybe improve fuel efficiency or construction speed. I guess also you might want to have Vulcan be upgraded to be able to allow certain constructions. So currently, if you look at the infrastructure, there's all your complexes, your hubs and corridors, and then eventually you get these mega structure things that I think I'm going to have to do. And perhaps you could say that, look, okay, that's great and everything, but Vulcan needs a few upgrades before it gets there. Right, or maybe like structural upgrades, like physically making Vulcan bigger in some way. But then Vulcan could also have other types of upgrades like shield generators or engines or whatever, like strange stuff like that, that allows it to traverse space beyond the wormhole, right? Eventually. But those are like one-time upgrades, I think. That's not anything that you're going to do over and over necessarily. Like the final upgrades. The structure, you might want to upgrade. You might want to upgrade the power on Vulcan. Yeah, okay, but all these things, Vulcan already exists, so none of these, I don't need data for Vulcan currently. I don't need a definition SO. I don't need a definition, generally speaking, because the definition, none of this information is really useful. Except maybe the hull mass, actually. The hull mass is actually kind of useful. Okay, so let's do a little bit of that. So let's get the hull mass in here. Okay, so this is not going to be a definition SO. This is just a scriptable object, like that. And this is just going to return a Vulcan definition. Okay, now we can think about this. So we have general stats for Vulcan, so a bunch of hull masses, fuel use, engine delta V, and then upgrade costs. Okay, so first of all, I think we could just make this an int, a list of ints or an int array, hull mass. Right. A new int array, and let's just make it 3. Right, so there's 3 potential things in there. Wait, I could just do this, right? I'm not sure actually. How do you create a new int array? Not without the new. Okay, cool. So yeah, the index is just the level, right? So level 0, 1, 2, whatever. So that's fine. Engine delta V, fuel use we don't care about. Also the hull mass needs to be substantially higher. So let's actually just add zeros here. Engine delta V. That's not really a thing. It's engine efficiency, really. Okay, so we can call it engine efficiency. We could just make it 1F in this case. Not going to worry too much about that. Okay, so we have hull mass, engine efficiency. Okay, now the upgrade data. Okay, now so this is we can delete all of that and we can call this recipes. Right, and we can do public recipe. Well, let's just do a list of recipe. And call these upgrade recipes. We don't need the header, honestly. Whoop. What did I just do? Okay, yeah, I like that. Okay, now if we want to create a Vulkan definition, first thing is the Vulkan definition needs to be somewhat streamlined. Yeah, so get rid of everything. Okay, the scriptable object would also need a public string ID and a public sprite. Sprite, right? Just so we can use it for something. So the definition itself, none of this nonsense. So we have a string ID. An int array for whole mass. We'll have a public float for engine efficiency and engine torque now. Public list of recipe upgrade. Okay, so essentially that, and that would also mean that none of this stuff really is required anymore. So we'll get an int array for whole mass. Float engine. Engine efficiency. And list of recipe upgrade recipes. Okay, so now we can just do this dot whole mass. Just like that. Nice and clean. Right, now we can add to this later, but I like the simplicity. Yeah, so we need to create a new one. So we need the ID, whole mass, engine efficiency, and upgrade recipes. There we go. Okay, very straightforward. Well, okay, we can't do that. Okay, I could just change this. Vulkan SO. I guess, yeah, this is just Vulkan SO. It creates a Vulkan definition. So I might as well call it a definition then. Vulkan definition SO. Okay, something like that. Pretty clean. Now I'm just gonna let's create or go edit or whatever. So here we've got it. So this is the Vulkan definition. Our whole mass exists. Engine efficiency, no sprite. Okay. Yeah, let's rename this to Vulkan. Yeah, I think that's the correct call. So this is just named Vulcan now. The ID is Vulcan. Nothing funny about it. No sprite at the moment. I don't see my lists. Oh, this should be a recipe SO, actually. Okay, wait a minute, yeah. So, recipe SO. Okay, where do I make my recipe SOs into? Oh, okay, I never get a recipe dictionary. Okay, so there's still some connections missing here. Okay, so a recipe SO, I think I should do a public recipe, one of these, to runtime, return new recipe. Now let's just check the recipe itself. So it's really nothing special. Just something like that, right? Okay, I think this is the first time I actually create a recipe, right? No. Okay, so what we can do then for Vulcan definition SO, you do upgrade recipes dot select I do r dot to runtime. Something like that. So this returns a it returns whatever to runtime returns. I know this returns a recipe. So select, as far as I remember, yeah. So select gets a specific thing and you can call a function. So now I get a recipe and I make it to list. And yeah, so that's one way of getting a recipe out of a recipe SO. No issues. Yeah, so the Vulcan definition now gets upgrade recipes. And we can also get the Vulcan definition with the Vulcan definition SO if we so choose. Okay, so let's save. Now, I think if I go to Unity, I should be able to click on this and see the upgrade recipe list. Okay, fantastic. So that works. Let's just check something with the recipe SO. Okay, I can create one if I want to. Yeah, I guess one thing I could do is I could just come here to my recipe matrix Right, I can do a little bit of this, and I can say, look, okay, let's give Vulcan 3 levels, right? Why not? And we stick it right here. And this is essentially going to be Vulcan _1. _2. And _3. Still some stuff that needs to be done here. Okay, but the idea would be... Okay, what does this cost, right? So Vulcan will be already built, and the idea now is we just do upgrades to Vulcan, and it should be fairly expensive, right? More expensive than anything else we want to upgrade, essentially, I would say. Yeah, it should feel like substantial upgrades, because Vulcan is, in fact... I'm not sure if we need 3... Okay, maybe we just have 2 upgrades. Yeah, maybe it's just 2 upgrades. But you have level 1 is the starting level. Then upgrade 1, upgrade 2. Yeah, we can call these Vulcan upgrade. Upgrade 1 and upgrade 2, right? Okay, so let's just make it something ridiculous. You know, let's say we need like 10,000 of those. What's this? Yeah, okay, structural alloys, 10,000, conductive, 5,000, 6,000. Let's make it 4,000 advanced ceramics, 2,000 chemicals, and then you need high performance composites. 500, why not? Superconductive metals, 500. Microelectronic substrates, 500, right? So something like that. And then the next upgrade is essentially the same thing. But we need, I don't think fusion cells, but we need quantum processors, obviously. Like 100. 100 of those, and I don't know. 50 of those, right? Whatever. Okay, and I guess what we could do, now we can insert a sheet, rename to Vulcan. Right, and we can do something like, okay, so the level, so 1, 2, and 3, so depending on the level, Vulcan would have a construction speed, maybe that's something that changes. Maybe the engine efficiency changes, and the hull mass would go up as well, so it'll get physically heavier. Okay, so let's imagine when we upgrade, right, we essentially add, how much is this? 22,000 materials. So I would have to guess, you know, that Vulcan starts at a hull mass of like 10,000, right? And then it goes up to like 32,000, and then maybe after the another 22, 50, let's go 55,000. Well, let's just make it a nice round 50k. This is not 10,000, right? This is, yeah. Let's make this 30,000. Yeah, let's do that. That's a little bit a rounded number. So engine efficiency, we could start with 1, 2, and 4. Right, we double the engine efficiency. Construction speed, 1. Three, 9, I don't know. That seems like quite the increase. Yeah, but I mean, that's fine, I guess. Okay, so these are the things for Vulcan that becomes better. Yeah, the whole mass is significant, so, you know, you're going to need... Yeah, maybe I should do a 3 and a 9 here, so that the engine efficiency is also significant. Significant upgrades. Because with this amount of mass, right, you don't want your engine efficiency to double when your mass triples. Because that'll effectively make it so your engine efficiency is the same. Right, so now the engine efficiency triples when your mass triples. But then on the last level, it's actually significantly better. Now, maybe we just make this a 10. Significant upgrade, right? Yeah, I like that idea. Okay, so now we've got the upgrades, and I guess we need to do the upkeep for Vulcan as well. Okay, so Vulcan's upkeep, we don't build it initially, right? But so let's do Vulcan. Level 1. Right, level 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the level 1 upkeep, I think, you know, it's going to be like, let's see, these ones, yeah, okay. So it's something like the recipe matrix. So let's do that one. I think it's divided by 100, right? This is normally how we do it. Yeah, okay. But this one, I think I'm just going to make it divide by 200. And I'm only going to do the first few. Okay. Then level 2 upgrade would be that divided by 100. And it's going to be everything. Yeah, like so. Okay, and remember the upkeep is cumulative. So each level up requires you to have more upkeep. I think this is what I do here. Yeah. Yeah, so this is equal to that plus that. So we can see how the upkeep scales. Yeah, so at the end, this is your upkeep for Vulcan. Which, you know, it's pretty significant compared to the other things. But we only have one of Vulcan, right? We don't have multiple Vulcans like we do with the complexes and stuff like that. So I think this is okay. I do have to think about how frequent these things are going to be happening, right? Like, how frequently do you need to pay this price? It's not every tick. that would be ridiculous, but it will be frequent enough that you do need to think about it, right? Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, now if I... Okay, so let me just get this out of the way. So I think what I need to do now... so I need to get a CSV parser for Vulkan, right? Yeah. So many of these things don't work anymore. It's just public class Vulkan CSV parser. Okay, so how does this work? So public static. It needs to give me. What is it returning? I guess a public Vulkan data, essentially, right? Wait, don't I have Vulkan data already? Ah, no, I don't. Okay. So we need to get Vulkan data, which is essentially what the scriptable object needs to have. Okay, so we got our hull mass, our engine efficiency. I guess the engine efficiency now becomes a float array instead, right? Engine efficiency is a float array. Hull mass also does not have to be specified, and the same with this one. Okay, upgrade recipes, we can get those. Construction speed, okay, so that's the other one. So hull mass, engine efficiency, public int array, construction speed. I wonder if I make this a float array. Because I'm thinking I'm going to multiply with construction speed. And if I take something like a float and I multiply it by an int, I might lose the float entirely. Right, so I think this is all three things that Vulkan can have at the different levels. Yeah. Okay, so we can do public int array. You know what? I can just copy this stuff. Well, I don't think I need this. Yeah. So this is just the information that I get straight. So if I return a list of Vulkan. Now, actually, no, we just return the Vulkan data, right? We don't return a list. Yeah, that's just the Vulkan data that we return. Okay, we call it parse. I don't think I need an input. I can figure this out. So if we think about it a little bit, I think my recipes, I do the same thing, right? Yeah. Okay, so we need this, right? Which just gets us to the correct place. Right, something like that. We don't need recipes matrix. We need Did I just call this thing Vulkan? Yeah. So Vulkan. So that's now where we get the information from. Okay, so var Vulkan Vulkan rows equals CSV loader load path. Okay. Okay, we just do Vulkan data. Vulkan data is equal to new. Then for int I equals 0. Well, we'll do I equals 1, right? We start on the first row. I less than Vulkan rows dot count I plus plus. Okay, so now we just go through each row. So var row equals Vulkan rows I. Okay, and now we just do Vulkan. Whoops. Oh, you know what? Actually, each of these. Yeah, okay. So Vulkan data dot whole mass is equal to new int 3. Yeah, so there's 3 levels, so we have to essentially do this. So engine efficiency. This is just a float array. And then construction speed. I want to make this a float array as well. Okay. We're not going to do, well, we're going to do I minus 1, right? Equals int dot parse. And we need culture info. Okay, why am I not getting globalization? System globalization, okay. Okay, dot invariant culture. Okay, so we're gonna have 3 of these. So this is gonna be engine efficiency, and this is gonna be construction speed. This one would be a float though, and a float pass. Okay, so it's the level is on the first element, so the whole mass. Okay, wait. Let's do these in order. So the construction speed is number 1, then efficiency, then whole mass. Right, like that. So construction speed. Row 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's just the row, but it's column 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Yeah, so that essentially will set my Vulkan data. Correct. So we have the integer arrays, and then once we've done that, we can just return Vulkan data. Right, nice and easy, nice and clean. Okay, we also just maybe need to delete all this old stuff. And rename this file. Can I do it here? No. Oh, I can. Rename file. Ah, very nice. Okay, great. So now I have a Vulkan CSV parser. Okay, and here where I do my CSV to SO stuff. Yeah, I could just have another one for Vulkan. Honestly, I could just have, okay, well, whatever. Public static void and generate Vulkan. Okay. So all we have to do here is going to be closer to what the recipes do. And we actually don't need any of this stuff for the recipe. Okay, but we can do a debug.log. It doesn't have to be a warning. Okay, generate Vulkan. Okay, now the first thing we have to do is get Vulkan, right? And this is kind of a very stupid one to do, but anyway. Okay, so our Vulkan data is equal to Vulkan CSV parser dot parse. So that gives me a Vulkan data. Okay, then we just need to find. Oh, I've never done this before. I guess it's just a string. Vulkan GUID, right, equals asset database dot find assets, right, and we just look for T Vulkan definition SO, right, that is spelled correctly. Yeah. Oh, this returns a string array. Okay, fine. So now we can do var Vulkan I don't think they're gonna be many, but anyway. Dot select. Okay, so we want to do Vulkan or G asset database dot GUID to asset path, right? Yeah, G dot select. Yeah, let's just actually copy this stuff, right? It's just the same thing. Okay, so now we have a list. But honestly, there's just going to be one thing in here, right? Yeah, because I just have one Vulkan data. So if Vulkan if the count is greater than 0, which means it exists, then we can do Vulkan definition SO. SO equals Vulkan.existing.first. Okay, sorry, my bad. This is meant to be the Vulkan definition SO. So we just get the first one, or we could do, what's it, first or default? Right, just something like that. So we get our definition SO. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be the case pretty much every time. But, you know, whatever. Okay, then we just have to go through it and say things like SO dot whole mass equals Vulkan data dot whole mass, SO dot engine efficiency, SO dot construction speed, all that good stuff, right? Yep. Okay, now on the other side, now if we can't find our asset, so that's normally what we do here over here. We have to create the SO. But I don't think that really is ever going to happen. Okay, but we can now do editor utility set dirty SO, and then we do asset database dot save assets. Okay, and we just have to have some kind of a menu item here. Generate Vulkan. Okay, there we go. So now all the information for Vulkan would end up here. We just need to go through the definition quickly and make sure this is a float array. Okay. Float array. Okay, then that is basically it. Then everything is fine here as well. Yeah, so now we just need to do one generation of this and it should be fine. So I just need to go. Okay, so I need to export Vulkan and my recipes. Right, so save as. Let's do save as. CSV. Okay, and this one's going to be Vulkan. Save. Okay. And then I need to go to my recipe matrix. CSV. Okay. Now I don't actually know if my database saved. For crying out loud. Please tell me you saved. Okay, thank goodness. It seems like... Okay, so things are saved. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So we need to generate our recipes and we need to generate our Vulkan definition. Let's give it a go. So utilities, generate recipe SOs. Okay, it should have worked. So we can now check our recipes and we should have, 2 new recipes for the upgrade of Vulkan. And we can see all the amounts here in that array. Okay. Craft time and stuff like that would need to be updated at some point, but okay, cool, that was made. Now, our Vulkan definition over here. So this thing needs to be updated. So if we go utilities, generate Vulkan. Okay, we got a bit of a... String was not in the correct format. Okay, let's just check Vulkan quickly. Maybe I messed up my... Oh, geez. Okay. Apparently my recipe made it into the Vulkan CSV. Okay, that's wrong. This one... I guess it's the way I exported it, right? Okay, so this is... Vulkan, save. Yes. Okay. So let's just check if Vulkan is correct now. Okay, now that's more like it. Okay, so let's go do that again. Generate Vulkan. No issues. And yeah, the Vulkan mass has been updated. Engine efficiency, construction speed. Now we just need the upgrade recipes. Okay, so that's easy enough. We can just do that manually. Grab these two, stick them in there. There we go, recipe 1 and 2. Great. Okay, so now Vulkan is in here. And... yeah, we can start thinking about actually creating Vulkan now. Okay, so let's go into our... okay, so the first thing I think is inside our game database asset, right? We need a reference to Vulkan in here. Okay, so we can make that our first thing, right? Yeah, public... Vulkan is definition SO. Okay, we can do that as the very first thing in our game database asset because, you know, it's kind of the most important thing. Okay, then in our game data, we get our game database asset, so we can access this if we need it. I'm more interested in our game database. So we might here need a public Vulkan. You know, we don't really need this here. We really might not need it here. Yeah, but we do need to create Vulkan. Yeah, let's see Vulkan. Okay, so Vulkan is this. I guess what we could do, you know, we could have... we could set everything in here. Actually, then why do we have a Vulkan definition? I'm just thinking about this. We have the the scriptable object makes sense, right? But the definition itself, we'll only have one Vulkan, we create it, and then that's it. Yeah, so do we really need a Vulkan definition as well? I don't actually think so. It might be better to just create Vulkan and have it know. You know, obviously it knows its ID. What am I doing? I don't even know why I need an ID, but anyway, it's fine. So we need an ID. So we could just do something like this. We could do a definition, right? And all the definition really gives us is things like things that don't change about Vulkan, right? Like its string its ID. What the hell am I doing? Its ID, hull mass, efficiency, and okay, yeah, and we need a current level. Right, something like that. We don't need the definition. We could just grab everything we need from this definition of Vulkan. Okay, and this is runtime stuff. Yeah, I'm not creating multiple Vulkans. I don't need a definition for Vulkan. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell the definition SO to return a Vulkan instead. And what it's going to do is just create a Vulkan. We can do these with curly braces. Okay, ID equals ID type of thing, right? It's not public. Yeah. And then upgrade recipes. Yeah, so the definition of Vulkan lives here. We don't need an additional definition. We could just have Vulkan instead. So we create a new Vulkan and we set these things. We might even do... we might start the current level at 1, right? For Vulkan, for instance. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, and then... let's just go to our Vulkan system. So some things might have broken here. Might have broken. So start travel, the speed. Okay, so who determines the speed of Vulkan? I guess this is determined by a helper function. Okay, so whenever we determine the speed, we just need to make sure we take into account engine efficiency and mass, right? With the level. Well, actually, current level must be 0. If our level is... Yeah, I think that makes sense. Our level is essentially our index for our properties, like hull mass, efficiency, and then which upgrades we need. So at level 0, we need the first upgrade recipe. Yeah, I like that. I think it makes sense. Okay. So let's think about how Vulkan is then made. So when we initialize, we set the current resources for Vulkan, I guess. But yeah, so where Vulkan's system... Oh, it's just referenced by this. Okay, no, that's fine. Let's think about this. So game entry point, I think that's where I want to start looking at this, right? So let's go game entry. No, okay, so this guy over here. Okay, so we create our database. I guess we set... Why did we do that? Game database. Oh, we don't have to do that. Okay, I think this is just using linked, right? But here I just go through the resource definitions and I make sure that the index and the things are correct. Yeah, I don't need to do this. I don't care about this. Okay, yeah, so normally this is where I guess I would have made Vulkan. I would assume. Or somewhere here. Or maybe in game. Yeah, I might have created Vulkan in game. Okay, but we got the game asset database. So let's think about what game does. So normally game... Okay, Vulkan's not in here either. Not anymore anyway, but we have our simulation manager. Okay, so this is where I initialized Vulkan and did all this stuff normally. Okay, this is also where my two systems are living currently. Perhaps that's exactly what we need to do. So perhaps we do public read only Vulkan systems. What is the Vulkan system? Surely this is not actually a thing. It looks like it is. Oh, that's a very empty file. Yeah, okay. This is where I was meant to start doing this. But I never did. Okay, Vulkan systems. Okay, so we have our Vulkan systems and we can do Vulkan systems equals new Vulkan systems. Okay, so something like that, right? So we create it. But I guess... Okay, well, this is also completely pointless, but anyway. Okay, so this at least gets all the systems going. And then what I can also do here is Vulkan systems dot update. I don't actually know what do I have an update function here? Yes, I do. Okay. Okay, so update with delta time. Okay, that looks wrong now, so I'm gonna do that instead. Let's rename this to Vulkan system. I I like that idea. And then in my game, or actually in my simulation manager, let's do that. There we go. Hey, Gavarian. How goes the space logistics? It's going slowly. I deleted a significant amount of my code. Well, I don't... Like, here's some remnants, right? I wasn't deleted per se, but it was certainly commented out. So I have a ton of files that are just a bunch of comments. You know how it goes, right? You think you're onto something, and then you change the entire game architecture, and you end up with a bunch of this stuff. Because Unity starts throwing errors at you like nobody's business. You've also been there. I'm glad I'm not alone. Yeah, I ended up, playing the game and then figuring out it's not that great. So I decided to pivot hard. It's still the same idea, right? If I had to tell you what it's about, it'd sound like I'm still making the same game. But I significantly changed the overall structure, of the things you can make and do and stuff like that. So there's now... I'm also programming it a little bit more procedurally, rather than object-orientated, I guess. And the main problem with I was running into was my data was so spread out throughout these objects in the game that I didn't really know how I would even get to a point where I can serialize all the data to have a save game and stuff like that. So I decided to, while I'm changing everything, I might as well change the way I did that so that the data is more centralized. And I just have these systems now that modify the data. But it at least means that I can find the data very simply. Right, it's not spread through 100 different game objects or 100 different objects at different levels in the hierarchy and stuff like that. Because, yeah, saving something like that, I felt like would be miserable. Okay, so, okay, we just need to create Vulkan, I guess, essentially now. So that won't happen inside the simulation manager, necessarily, no. Yeah, no, it can't. So maybe when we start the simulation... where do we start the simulation? From where? From game. So that would mean we need to give game a Vulkan if we want to start the simulation, because game is initialized from my game entry point, and here we actually do have a way of creating a Vulkan. Yeah, so what we can do is we can say Vulkan equals, Vulkan equals. Now we can't just do new Vulkan. What we need to do is database asset dot Vulkan definition so dot to runtime to generate a Vulkan correctly from the definition, right? Okay. Then we could essentially have this initialization have a requirement like you need to give me a Vulkan. Oh my greatness. I can't type Vulkan. There we go. So now that works. And then starting the simulation. Yeah, we're going to have to pass in quite a few things here. But starting the simulation, let's say one of the first things we need is a Vulkan. Right. And that'll essentially allow us to do Vulkan system in it. Right, and when we initialize the Vulkan system, let's just see, initializing Vulkan system, we need a Vulkan here. So let's ask for a Vulkan. Okay, then it can initialize properly. So now we have a Vulkan, so that could work. Yeah, this is a bit unfortunate that I still have to do multiple levels. And this is essentially because, you know, we have the game entry point. This is where our data lives initially. Then we have the game that we need to initialize, which is fine. And then we need to start the simulation. Which, honestly, I don't know if I need to do it this way. But that's fine. This is just a way to get everything. Yeah, so Vulkan. We probably, when we start the simulation, we're going to have to do quite a bit more than just give it a Vulkan. Yeah, probably 100% we're going to have to do more. Yeah, and also now that I think about it, like the presentation manager, when we connect simulation, for instance, in the past, this is where we got references to things like Vulkan, so that we can actually do stuff with the representation of Vulkan in the world, right? The view, so to speak. So we need to do this as well to actually get Vulkan to move. Okay, but this is a good beginning, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Before I continue, gonna go use the restroom, maybe top up on my coffee. I'll be right back. Give me a couple of minutes. I'm back. Wow, wow. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so the next part I think is to connect presentation to simulation, right? So that I can actually have Vulkan do things in the world. That's kind of interesting. Okay, I like move, right? Okay, so now since I've changed a bunch of things, this should be kind of interesting. So I want things to be simpler. So I'm not going to create this whole, view model nonsense if I don't need to. Wait, what's wrong here? Oh, we need to pass in Vulkan. Okay, so no weird view model things and nonsense like that. If I don't absolutely need it. All I want to do is I just want to get references to things straightforwardly and then read data from things. Okay, so the first thing I think I want to... Let's just close all the tabs and let's start by going Vulkan. Okay, so this is obviously just Vulkan, right? We can put it over there. And we have Vulkan panels and we have a Vulkan view, right? So this is our Vulkan view, essentially. And I think what I wanted to have is something. I want to just straight. But I have a Vulkan view model. I don't even know. I don't think so. No. Okay, so I want to go straight public. Read only Vulkan. Vulkan. Right, straight like that. So we have a Vulkan. Okay, we have awake, we have it initialize. Okay, that's fine. I think about those things. Okay, so previously I did have Vulkan in the game, so I could always get a reference to it that way. I guess I could do the same thing. Right here. Instead of getting Vulkan, let's say, from the simulation manager, because you'd have to go simulation manager, then you'd have to go Vulkan system, and then Vulkan exists there. No, that's fine. That's fine. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do, okay, so Vulkan equals game dot simulation manager dot Vulkan system dot Vulkan. You just grab Vulkan where it is, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is a get private set type of thing. Yes. Okay, public Vulkan get private set. Okay, no read only. Okay, so we can get Vulkan. Okay, and in Vulkan we have a bunch of information, so that's good. Okay, let's think about this. Move in region. Okay, so now my question would be, do we have a solar system view and a region view again? So I guess the solar system view could be fine. Yeah, I think the solar system view itself is not a problem. Do we give it a reference to Vulkan as well? I guess we could. Right, so essentially here where we initialize everything, we could just give it a reference to Vulkan. And there's no more... Yeah, we could just do something like that. And essentially... No, this is just Vulkan. We can pass the reference through if we want to. We could also just say that the Vulkan view... Yeah, maybe that's the way we do it. So instead of this, we just go Vulkan view. So we'll have to do Vulkan view.instance.vulkan. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. So let's just keep a private reference to Vulkan then. Yeah, just something like this. And then when we initialize it, we could just say Vulkan equals Vulkan view.instance.vulkan. And then all we have to do here is we do Vulkan.position. Yeah, just something like that. So we basically change the position of Vulkan to this thing's position. Right, yeah, that makes sense because Vulkan... Yeah, the position of Vulkan is going to be initialized here to be exactly where it is in the world. So now my simulation and my world are synced. Okay. And then on update, right, let's see what we do here. So here we normally said, okay, well, we could do if Vulkan is equal to null, we could just return. And then we can just do if Vulkan.state, okay, is equal to, now let's see. So here we're going to go Vulkan system. And you know what? I'm just going to go using state.traveling. Right, so if we are traveling, don't care about that. Transform.position. Okay, so this is now the position of this thing. Will just be updated to Vulkan.position.x. Yeah. Right, just something like that. So we just update this thing and we make sure it's always in sync with that Vulkan. That's the simplest way to do this. Yeah. Okay, our Vulkan view itself obviously gets a reference to Vulcan, I guess, which is, whatever. Okay, and I guess it should also get a reference to the solar system view, and then we can do... we can initialize it like that. The region view, I'm not even sure what I'm going to do with that, to be honest. It should do something, but I have no idea what I want it to do. So for now, this is good enough. Okay, so now we have these things synced. And when the state is traveling, it'll try to update the transform. Now, it's important that we can actually get Vulcan to move again. Okay. So we can select Vulcan, so that's fine. So this is what this is for. We can hover, we can do all this thing. We can select Vulcan. Yeah. Okay. So that's okay. And I think then the region is my next thing. Or my region view. Right, so in the region view, we don't have... okay, we took this out for the logistics hub. Connect logistics or logic. Okay, what is this? Region dot... Oh, this is just the anchor points for Vulcan. Okay. Just so the region has a anchor point set. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's see. On alt click, so this is now the Vulcan travel pop-up, which I switched off. Because I broke my UI manager. So let's start rebuilding the UI. Okay. So the Vulcan travel pop-up. Okay, where was that one? That is this one over here. So let's see, why is it broken currently? Okay, so there's this view model for the Vulcan travel panel view model, which I took out. Okay, we can put it back in. So let's just do that. Okay, so let's see. So we have a read-only Vulcan. Okay, so this is not what I want anymore. And there's no such thing as a Vulcan solar system. So let's fix that. Okay, so when we have the view model, we need Vulcan. Okay. The view, okay, that's fine. And then the destination. Okay, that's all good. So we set everything. There's no Vulcan solar system anymore. Okay, fuel resource. Okay, so we have a resource definition here. So we just basically want to go to Vulcan and ask it, what's your preferred fuel? What's your preferred fuel allocation? Right? Because Vulcan just have these things now. Okay. And then get mass total. Okay, yes, because that's something Vulcan... Huh, okay. So here's now an interesting question. How do I get the total mass of Vulcan? I can obviously ask it for its whole mass. But I also need to know what the current resources are and the density of each of those resources to get the real total mass for Vulcan. Okay, so this is a little bit of a conundrum, because that seems like slight calculation stuff. Right, now the whole mass we can just get easily, right? But I think we should have something like an int. Maybe storage mass, right? Something like that. And our storage mass should change whenever we do something with our resources, I think. Right, maybe. So if we put the Vulcan system here, and okay, current resources, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's see, storage stuff. Okay, so we check for enough, then we can remove and we can add. Now, this is essentially where I would potentially want to calculate our storage mass and update it, right? Every time we add or remove resources. But we add and remove resources in many different places. Right, we obviously do it here. But then we also do it in places like this, right? Where we remove storage or fuel from storage and stuff like that. So perhaps we do it centrally. So public void remove resources from storage. Right, we do one of those, and we have an integer resource and amount. Right, and essentially it's just gonna look like this, right? Minus equal amount. Yeah. And then instead of doing it like this, we need to do remove resources from storage, and we give it the fuel and fuel allocation. Right, so now we can check the current resources. If we want to, but we don't remove. Okay, that's just setting it up. Okay, so that's now the only place current resources are being altered. So it's all in here. Which means, okay, for enough resource, whenever we remove or add a resource, we should recalculate our current resource void set, or let's just calculate storage mass. Right, and essentially what we want to do is we want to go through all our resources, get the amounts, and get their mass. Total, so equals 0. Okay, so we have to do something like for int I less than Vulcan current resources I plus plus, right? Yeah. Okay. And then we have to do total storage mass plus equal. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So we want to do Vulcan it's going to be Vulkan.current resources I, right, which gives me my amount, multiplied by game. Now let's see, game dot. It's still called the definition database. Sorted resources I. Okay, so we multiplied by that, but not. We get the resource dot density, right? So that's essentially what we want to do. This returns a float. Okay, yeah, so the float, blah, blah, blah. So we add, wait, is this literally cannot? Fine. Calculate this as a float then. Okay, so we get the total storage mass, each resource. Right, and then we just do Vulkan dot storage mass equals. We could just cast this to an integer, rounding down, essentially. Okay. So that's simple enough, and you know we do this every time we. Do we have to do this every time we add or remove a storage or any resource? Yeah, because technically we could just. Yeah, because technically we could just maybe have something like this instead. Private void update. Right, and then we tell it to, look, give me the resource and the amount. Right, and then we can say Vulkan dot plus equals amount multiplied by, well, this thing, right? But this time we just do resource. Just something like that, right? So our total mass becomes something like that, essentially. Yeah, and then we can just do update storage mass resource, and this is a remove, so we'll do negative amount. And then here we just do plus amount, right? Because we're adding, here we're removing. Now we don't really need this one. And then even here, what I'm thinking is maybe we just do remove resource from storage, and we tell it, look, the resource is I, and the amount is just recipe amounts I, right? So we just do it multiple times. Okay, here we need to do remove with recipe, recipe dot input amounts, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, I kind of like that. So now we just remove or add or remove resources, and we simply update our storage mass. It does mean that when we initialize Vulkan, we probably need to do calculate storage mass somewhere here at the start, just so we can see, you know, what our starting mass is, and then technically everything should work. I hope. Yeah, we could do something like every 1000th update or something, we can do a calculate storage mass instead, but this I like. So we just plus minus, the amount might be negative, so then it's plus equals a negative amount. Yeah, I think this is good. I also don't like... Right, this is a game database now. Go to game, yeah, it's a game database. So that's better. Okay, goody. So okay, so why did I do that? Oh yes, I was busy with this panel view. So get total mass. So this is just going to be equal to Vulkan.whole mass, and we insert the Vulkan.current level plus Vulkan.storage mass, right? And that's going to be updated always. Righto. Okay, engine efficiency. Okay, so this is going to be Vulkan dot engine efficiency with Vulkan dot current level, right? That's how we get our efficiency. To update the view, update info. Okay, start region ID to string. I think I just made the ID capital. Yes, that's exactly what I did. Okay, so that should work now. Fuel allocation changed. Okay, fuel type changed. Game database get resource definition fuel.id. Okay, we could resource definition. We could do something like that. But we won't do it like that. We just do resources dictionary. Fuel.id instead. Okay, start Vulkan travel. Okay, this is just Vulkan, right? We plug into Vulkan immediately. Well, okay, so it's not going to be Vulkan necessarily. If we want to do something like this, we need to get the Vulkan system, plug into that instead. I wonder if Vulkan should have a reference to Vulkan system. Right, I should be able to get the Vulkan system, no problem. Right, it is public from the simulation manager. So I should be able to do game.simulationmanager.vulkan system. And then inside the Vulkan system, there's a start travel. Okay, so start travel, and we can check. So what we need is a bunch of stuff. Now, fuel allocation. Oh, is all of this stuff afloat for fuel allocation? Let's make it afloat then. Okay, when we remove it, we need to remove it as an integer. Yeah, but that actually just works. So, because we get our target region, destination, time and speed, fuel, and fuel allocation. That's it. And then Vulkan can start travel. Flippin' fantastic. Can you believe that? Okay, that's great. Okay, so now we just need to make sure our panel view is actually able to do something here. Okay, so here, confirm button click. We need to start Vulkan travel. Okay, we do a back navigation, that's fine. Okay, so let's just check. Field type changed with object. Okay, this is now a resource definition. Yeah, so that should help here. Oh, it's a resource definition. SO, sorry. Okay, so that works then. Fuel allocation changed. I think I don't need these things, right? Yeah, because I made a new type of element that just has those buttons built in. Right, so none of that's actually required anymore. Okay, so I think this pop-up might just work. Wouldn't that be interesting? Okay. Okay, there is no game Vulkan. So it's gonna have to be game.simulationmanager.vulkansystem.vulkan. Because that's where Vulkan lives now. It doesn't live at that high level. It's inside. I could make it live here, but you know. I didn't make it live right here either, no. So it is inside the Vulkan system. That's where we have to go find it. Which is fine. Okay, I guess. Okay, maybe we have to initialize some things here. Okay, yeah, I took out Vulcan. Okay, this is a bunch of nonsense. Okay, I'll have to come and fix this. Let's see if what I've done so far is enough for anything to work. Okay, null reference exceptions. Here we go. Oh, I didn't input the definition SO, my bad. Yeah. I was looking at it and I literally... Right, that needs to live there. So all this information can be made available. Okay, we still have a couple of problems. No, man. So right here... This returns a Vulcan, I'm sure of it. Yeah, it creates a new Vulcan. Right, and then we initialize the game. We pass the Vulcan in. Why would it not create a new Vulcan? Like, that doesn't make any sense. There's clearly a new Vulcan created. And it's passed. I don't understand it. Okay, game database asset, it's got that, so that's not the problem. There we go, game database asset, and you have your game database asset, so it's all fine. Okay, let's just stop and play again. Maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe it did work, and I was looking at an old error. No, that's a new one. Okay, the persistent panel is complaining. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, it's failing here. Referred fuel. Game.database. Okay. I see. So I'm trying to create Vulcan and then set the fuel. But the game database will only initialize here. Aha. So Vulcan gets created. Then I need the initialization for the game database. Okay, that makes sense. So one of the things, what we can do, I guess, as not have Vulkan have a preferred fuel initially, but rather have the preferred fuel be set when we initialize the systems. Right, so something like here we do Vulkan preferred fuel equals game database dot sorted resources, and we just do something like that, right? So we do resource number 2, which is volatile matter, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay, now this should work now, theoretically. Okay, we have fewer errors. Let's see what's this one. Okay, Vulkan solar system init. Oh, I never plugged it in. Okay, my bad again. My bad. So Vulkan solar system. Here we go. Yeah. It's not plugged in there. Okay. Let's try that again. So many small things. Okay, it worked. Okay, so let's see if I click on Vulkan and I click on a region. Okay, it broke. Let's see why. Surely that's not the reason. Null reference exception error. My favorite kind. Presentation UI structures. Okay. 194. Okay, take me there. Okay, so right here. Calculator.travel. Does my calculator not exist? No, it's fine. Okay, so it's not that. Oh, a lot of these things for Vulkan might not actually be set correctly, right? That's right. So in my simulation manager back in the day, I did all of this nonsense for Vulkan. Yeah, that's right. Added starting modules and, you know... Okay, a lot of the stuff is not relevant anymore, but... Okay, let's just see. Okay, so some of the things... So I'm thinking my start region is probably a null. Yeah, so that's Vulkan's current region. Now, if you think about it, so the current region for Vulkan is not actually being set when we start. Right, so when we start, when we initialize, yeah, there's no current region for Vulkan. Where did I used to say it? I think I set that in the presentation manager, actually. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, so here I think we initialize that, but... Oh yeah, nothing's gonna update actually. That's correct, right? There's no update function anymore that, makes anything move. Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Because my simulation manager has an update simulation, but it's not being updated by my presentation manager. So what we should do is, when we connect simulation, our simulation manager should get... Okay, well, we don't need to do that. We can do game.simulationmanager.update simulation, and we just do time.delta time, right? That should at least help with that part. Okay, but the starting region for Vulkan, we need to give it a starting region, right? Or current region, at least. So I guess that's going to be in the Vulkan system. Yeah, somewhere here. The only question is, where do I get... I guess in game we have a solar system. And the solar system will have a dictionary of regions. So I guess I could just grab it from there. Yeah, so we could do Vulkan.current region equals game.solarsystem.regions. Okay. No, not regions like that, I don't think. I think I can. There's a dictionary. Oh, but the ID. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what we can do here is we can do region ID.earth. Right, so something like that, which is 3. Okay, that's fine. So we have Earth as our region. Ooh, the position of Vulkan when we start. Now, I think that I give it an anchor point. Right, so we go through this. Each region has an anchor point. Right, so actually what I should do then... yeah, maybe I should do something like this. Region Earth equals game.solarsystem.regions. Just something like that to start us off with. Okay, then we can do our current region is Earth. Right, and then we can do Vulkan dot... So that's our current region. State will be fine. Start position. Well, maybe not start position, but at least our current position, right? Must be Earth.Vulkan anchor point. Right, and then Vulkan current AU must be Earth.AU distance. Right, just something like that. And that I think will get most things set up correctly for Vulkan. Yeah. Okay, and this can work because we initialize Vulkan later. Game already exists. Right, game... If you look at the game entry point, game gets created here. And then, okay, we connect simulation. When does the simulation get going? Well, I guess here, right? Start simulation or something like that. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Start simulation happens well after everything is created. Okay. Now we initialize the Vulkan system. We don't initialize anything else yet, which could be a problem, but let's see. Okay. Let's see if this works a little better. I kind of doubt it. There's probably some more things that I'm forgetting. But, you know, little by little. Little by little. Okay, so if I right click here now. Ah, look at that. And our travel time is updating. Total mass 10,000. Okay, yes, because I don't actually have any fuel. Oh, that's a problem, right? Okay, interesting. So changing the fuel, that's bad, okay? Okay, so fuel. Okay, wait, why is it bad? Okay, so it's right here. So fuel resource, which is just the thing I keep. That's very interesting. Why does it not like when I change the fuel type? What is null? I assume the resource definition that I'm giving it is null. Right, so right here when on selection changed, I'm putting extending through a well, then that is an icon selector problem, I suppose. Because I'm listening to on selection change, right? I mean, that should be fine. Okay, well, what we can do is let's try, unless my game database is null for some dumb reason, but I don't think that's possible. Debug .log fuel.id. Right, let's just do that. Okay, so we click and we try to change the fuel. Okay, so I'm clearly getting the ID. Right, so that's not the problem. The ID exists. Is the resource dictionary not existing? Like, how the hell does this work now? Okay, so this is my game database. But I mean, the game database is initialized. Resource dictionary. Oh, I never create my resource dictionary. Yeah, okay, my bad. Okay, so resource dictionary equals resource, let's say definition list dot to dictionary, or r.id. Right, that's most how you do that. And then it uses this is going to be set to the key. I think that's how it works. Yeah, I believe that's the problem. I never made the resource dictionary a thing, so when I tried to access it, it obviously just broke. Okay, let's try this again. So changing my fuel, no problems. Okay, fantastic. And we can actually see everything updates in terms of my speeds and stuff. So if I have 50. Yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, now if we confirm, nothing's going to happen. Because we actually don't have any fuel. So let's just give ourselves a little bit of fuel. So we can test that. So I guess this would just be in our Vulkan system when we initialize everything. Yeah. We would simply do initialize Vulkan and do current resources. Yeah. Vulkan. Well, no. For each. No. For int, oh my word, int I equals 0, I less than game dot game database dot sorted resources dot length I plus plus. Okay, so we go Vulkan current resources I equals 1,000. 10,000, why not? Let's just give myself a bunch of resources, right? Now, obviously, I could have done it for specific resources only, but let's just do everything. So I have 10,000 of all resources. This should mean, and I'm pretty heavy. Yeah, I'm gonna be ridiculously heavy. Well, that's okay. Let's try it. Let's just see if I at least have resources. Okay, so we are much heavier, 31,000. No, 315,000. Okay, so the volatile matter might not cut it. Might have to go into our industrial chemicals. Okay, so if I confirm now, I'm moving? What? Okay. Now, another thing I want to check then is, did my total mass decrease because I used 1,000 of a resource? It should have. Right, so when I get there and I want to move to Mercury now, my total mass decreased, and it decreased by my density. So it went down by 500. I used 1,000 chemicals. So let's see. If I use 1,000 advanced propellants, makes me a little faster at least. I don't know what the density is for that, but I think the density is also a half, right? 0.5. Yeah. So let's move all the way to Jupiter. Using 2,000. So this should be 313,000 when we get there. I don't know if I could do anything. No, okay. Okay, so I do need to put in some more guard clauses or something for that. Okay, so I've arrived. Now if I want to move back, yep, exactly what I predicted. Fantastic. So we can move Vulcan again. Now that's the first step to getting the game working again. Okay, let's stop it there. Okay, I'm going to call that a success. And I'm just going to call the stream there then. I have obviously a lot of other work to do to get the game in a good place again. But, you know, I can do that work either offline or tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's another day. I actually don't know if I can stream tomorrow. We'll have to see. But I do think I'll stream over the weekend. So, but that's a good positive place to stop today. Got something working again. I'm happy. So I'm going to stop it there, get going with my other activities. And I'll see you guys tomorrow or the weekend or whenever I stream again. I'll see you next time. Let's say that. Cheers. That's the wrong one. This one.